I'll open up this first form, and this is showing us an interface that we can use for working with a type of object that's actually new in ADO.NET, and that makes it very easy for you to create connection strings. So it provides strongly typed properties for a particular .NET data provider like SQL Client for connections, and you can set those properties. We're doing it here on the form. I'll show you how we do it in code. And then you can call to string on this sort of connection string object that you build up, and it'll generate the connection string for you. So for example, if I want integrated security, all I need to do is specify a data source. And so I'll type in that dot for the local server. I could use local if I wanted. \, and then SQL Express. And for initial catalog, what this refers to is the database that I want to connect to by default. They call it initial catalog because it is possible to connect to other databases as well using this connection. It's not going to limit me, but it'll provide initial connection to, let's say, Northwind. And because I'm using integrated security, it's going to pass along the Windows credentials for the account that's connecting into SQL Server. And so if I click Build Connection String, this is the .NET connection string that is being created. And you'll notice that the terminology that's used is actually taken from OLEDB. So here we have a data source. That's exactly the same term that you use in OLEDB to specify the name of the server that you want to connect to. And initial catalog is also what's used in OLEDB. So this .NET connection string is making use of familiar terms from OLEDB. Now, what's interesting is that it would actually work just fine if I changed the connection string so that instead of data source, I had server equals. This harkens back to the old days of ODBC. In ODBC, you would say server equals, and over here, instead of initial catalog, you would say database equals, and that would work just fine. And in fact, here, instead of integrated security equals true, I could say integrated security equals SSPI, or I could say trusted connection equals true, which is what was used in ODBC. So they're pretty loose in supporting both the terminology that's used in ODBC from the past, as well as terminology that's familiar from OLEDB connections. But it's good to be consistent about it. When we talk about connection pooling, you'll see that in order to retrieve a connection from a connection pool, the string that you use for the connection string must exactly match. So whatever you decide to use, stick with it, and you'll see that the connection string builder uses the more recent OLEDB terminology of data source and initial catalog rather than server and database. Okay, let's take a look at the code that ran when I ran that form and click the button. It's very simple. Here's my connect strings form. I'll view the code for that form. And you see here, when I click this button, we're instantiating a SQL connection string builder object called builder. And we then are going to set some things up here based on whether or not the integrated security checkbox has been checked or not, right? So if that one was checked, if we said we wanted integrated security, then we're going to set the integrated security property of that builder to true. And then we set initial catalog and data source to whatever was typed into those text boxes. Otherwise, what we're going to do is we'll set initial catalog and data source, but we'll use the user ID and password text boxes, which would have been only enabled, really, if that was not checked integrated security. So a little bit of safety here. We're just making sure that we pull in the correct information. I'll just backspace here and hit the dot again so that you can see the different connections that are available. We're only working with a small number of them. There are some things that are new in ADO.NET 2.0, for example, being able to control whether you want to support asynchronous processing on a connection or not. And, you'll see that our familiar initial catalog is here. You won't find database here. In other words, they decided in naming the property to go with initial catalog, and here's integrated security and so on. So this is a very easy, strongly typed way for you to set properties, and then you'll see how you can generate the connection string itself by simply calling toString on that connection builder object. Now, obviously, this connection builder is specific to SQL Server. If we wanted to work with Oracle, then there would have to be an Oracle connection builder, and it would have the properties specific to Oracle. So that really can help out a lot instead of having to, go to a website or a help file to figure out what you need to set in the connection strings. Okay.